Okay, so for the people who don't know me, I am Maria Masci. I'm a senior ontologist at MD Anderson, the Cancer Center. And I'm part, the MD Anderson is, ah, can I move? Okay. And the MD Anderson is part of the UT Health Houston Center for Clinical and Translational Science. And as you see, include not only MD Anderson, but these are all these other University of Texas. And we, as a Center for Clinical and Translational Science, have agreed to be part of the CTSOC consortium. My role at MD Anderson mostly has been until really a very short time ago, mostly suggest ontology or develop ontology for clinical data. But as I said recently, the institution had another issue that was about AI model information and standardization. And so that part is what I wanted to present here today. And in particular is exactly explain you what and why we have started this. So the first main problem is that AI is not a problem, it's a fact. The AI models are used more and more in the clinical asset. And as you know, that have a very direct impact on patient. And so the idea is that you have to be sure that any AI model should fit their purpose and that no essential missing field are present. And if you see the basic, if the basic are absent, then this can have a repercussion on how is used in the clinical set, and so it become a risk for a patient. And that is the other part is important even for the governance, validation, and review. So what they do at Anderson, what they told me that was their issue, they have, as I said, several models that are applied to different fields in the clinical, and they have to review. The first step of review is the reviewing the documentation about the model. And they have an issue because there are several type of documentation. And what they really needed, and here is kind of what are the basic facts that they come out a clinical AI model should state in order to be clear what is doing it and how can be used, is really the intent use and the specific context, which is the target in this case, as I say, is clinical target population, exclusion, inclusion, data domain, modality, owners and sponsor, and which are the limitation of the model. And this is just very quickly, I don't want to go into this. There are AI models for histopathology images that are used. And one of the issues they encounter is that in one of this documentation, the model was working in one specific image magnification, and that was not reported in the documentation. And so they couldn't fit with another model, so they couldn't compare. And these are the type of things that they look for kind of give the go or no go to the model. And it's mainly done by specific people that started to take advantage of LLM, so putting the documentation to the LLM and trying to come out with comparison, but that's really didn't work. So they always have to review, so they have to be people review it personally the documentation to understand if anything is missing or not missing, or if two documentation are different or are talking about the same thing. And as I said before, this is very important time, the Anderson, because each of these AI model is going to impact the patient and needs to be aligned with the regulation. They needed to be know the risk. It needs to be transparent, and then it needs to be very clear with the owner, how to monitor, and obviously all the structured documentation needs to be searchable and comparable, because the other point that they have different models. So they come out with this 5C principle that should be covered by an AI documentation. It needs to be obviously clear, consistent in the field naming, standardization, complete. So nothing like to be determined. It should be present on the moment in that the model go live, and needs to be comparable, and there is to be current. So, and there should be information about the versioning of the model. They are standards, that standard model cards that has been developed, and one is the Coalition for LTI that developed the CHAIE model card, and the other one, sorry, let me take off this, sorry, this was making. And the other one is the Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Framework from the NSIT. And if looking at just these two kind of standard field requirement, they are not the same. It's not easy to compare. And then in addition, MD Anderson has some models that come from external vendors, and each of the vendor had its own type of documentation for each of the model. And so that makes, again, an additional level of complexity to compare, or to know exactly when the model documentation is talking about the same thing or not. And so what we have come out at Anderson as what we call definition of done for the model car is knowing at least this information in the documentation, or honor a clinical sponsor, intended use and context, the source of the data, the size, the labeling, the performance is important, and which is the metrics to measure it, the risk, and that is another very important part for the safety of the patient. Obviously the ability to have a human oversight this, and then the monitoring of the plan for alert if something error or something came out, and obviously the versioning. This is exactly one part of, in addition to the form that I showed you before, we are using at MD Anderson, and this is really connected with the EPIC, where all the clinical data are coming from. And what they do really is they have a list of these things, and they have to say, this is present, this is partial, this is missing. And so they go and complete and fill all this field for each documentation that they get from either inside Anderson or the vendor outside. So as you see, it's a lot of work. And in fact, they are really behind. And the reason why they say, can an ontology help, is exactly because they cannot go with the pace of how the people are developing models. So they are developing very quickly the model, and the review is very low. And so when they call me and say, I don't know, I never work with this field, and I don't know too much. So are there any ontology that can help doing this? And so I started looking around, and we really found the model car report ontology that is under the Obo Foundry that cover a lot of these things in the ontology. And we figured out that is one of our neighbor at UT Health. And so we started from there, but then we figured out that not all the things that we are in needs are present in MCRO. And so we have decided to go with starting from MCRO, add whatever term is needed, either as a new class or as a more granular type of term. And then, mostly are about status, honor, inference, threshold. All this part is kind of seem missing in the ontology already. And the other things is that we wanted then to be able to have some way, some automatization to compare this model card. And so we are really in the process now to obviously interact with MCRO and integrate all the list of terms that we are not seeing in the ontology that are needed from the model card, as I showed you before, looking at Chai, that seems to be one of the more used standard model card, the NST and the vendors, our vendors, and trying to collect all the new terms that we needed to integrate in the ontology. And we are, how we're going to check if this is working. We are planning to do a pilot to take different model cards. So on the same AI model, getting different model cards, either from vendors or internal model cards, and test the comparison. And this, we have discussed this, and the idea is to use the ontology, to feed the ontology to the LM, and then give the LLM the documentation and see if after the feeds with the ontology, the results of LLM is better than what they have before without using the ontology, and how good we'll do at that point. And that's, if that's work, then they, we will trying to see, they will want to develop a more direct tool to do it for all the vendors and all the internal model. Obviously, this is it should be seen as a first step to really try to standardize AI model, because the first thing is to know which are the information about the model, and then going more granular in how the model is working, and which is the specific type of AI is used, which are the checking point or the risk, etc. All this will be, we see as a further step respect to starting with what is a general approach. We have this AI model. How are we first able to see if they give us at least enough information to say, yes, what you say, the purpose of your model, it fits the documentation you gave me, or not really, you said that this is as it happened, this is working only with 20x magnification, but you didn't say, so we are using even for 50x magnification, and that's the model will fail because it's not being developed for that. And this is really the main idea. This just started really, I think, less than a month ago. And I wanted to present here because I don't know if other people have ever thought about it. They are going to have the same issue about standardization of the documentation on AI. If they have any comment, if they have used model card representation ontology, anything that could help really us to do it right, or collaborating will be really helpful. And with this, I've been quick.